Hello and welcome to Audionautic Deep Space Network. This is the Independent Musician's Guide to Production and Promotion. And today we're doing things a little bit different. We've had some scheduling issues and stuff, so we're pre-recording this, but we're all live in the premiere. So welcome everybody. Unfortunately, I can't share your comments and stuff like that, but we'll be hanging out in the chat. Today we've got something special though. We're going to be interviewing our latest Audionautic label mate, Bendu, who just released a new album. So we're going to talk to him all about the album, the production process, the fascinating story behind the creation of the album, all that kind of stuff. My name is Sunwarper, and with me today is Curtis. How are you?
I'm good, brother. I'm good. It's a beautiful Sunday afternoon here. We're recording this, about 2 weeks out of the episode. Even before the release. And so, yeah, it's an exciting time. It's been a lovely afternoon.
We've got Bendu sitting, waiting patiently in the green room, but should we bring him in?
So Bendu is our latest label mate. As of recording, as of broadcast of the recording, last week we released Woolgathering by Bendu, the one and only Bendu. If you've been listening to it, we hope that you've been enjoying it. It's a hell of an eclectic mix of sounds and tonality coming through. And so this is the artist spotlight. We're going to be talking all about the album. We're going to talk about the process, the production, the artwork. It's going to be dope. So let's bring Bendu in and let's start discussing everything, shall we?
Ben, what's going on?
Not much. How are you guys? It's good to be here.
We're good. Happy to have you. What you been up to?
Trying to get used to a new job. And like not a lot of music going on right now, unfortunately, but I'm still working with my friend Destin on our Semiotic Ghosts project. I'm doing that more regularly than Bendu stuff currently, but you know, just living life, man.
It's got to be done. It's like you have to. Like you find those times where you're all up in a project and you're all up in something and it's everything. And then you just spend time coming back from it. The real life gets in the way. The new job as well, you got to pay bills, you got to pay rent. And then that is like learning in its own right. Like, see, when you're doing the day work, so to speak, on the back of your head, you've got all this stuff ticking over. So you never know how it's going to come back and breathe fresh life into a project.
Right.
Oh, completely. We're recording this at a time coming up to release. All right, so we've still got a week and a bit before the release. How are you feeling right about now? How are you feeling right about now about Woolgathering?
I am ready for this. I'm really looking forward to having it out there and hearing what people think of it. This process of releasing things takes too long for me. So, it's a lot of waiting, and however, on the other hand, I'm also not one of these folks who I have a new album every week that just comes out rapid fire. So, it's a balance, right?
Yeah.
But I'm very excited for this to be out there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something about, though, having longer periods. You can get caught in traps of like working on things too much. But on the other hand, it's like it makes it special, right? It's something like
I agree.
You put time with it and then it comes out. I mean, that's something you speak of balance. That's something I struggle with and think about a lot. So I hear you. It's like you want to put stuff out, but then you want to take time with it. But yeah, it's tough. It's a balancing act for sure. So yeah, it's interesting that the different ways everybody approaches it. It always fascinates me because I think there's something to each of those methods and ways of doing it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I admire people who just have something like every Bandcamp Friday and like, it's about their, they have obviously like an amazing work ethic, which, I struggle with, but, I also come from the, where like having a new album from someone every couple of years is like a big event. And that you dig into it and just like play it a million times on repeat. So
it makes it special in that regard, right? Like,
Yep.
you know, there is something to be said for the regular releases and something like that, and that's fine if that's what you want to do. There is also that speciality. I'll always remember, like, you know, my band, for example, the Chili Peppers, when they release like a new album, maybe less so in the more modern times, but like, you know, they release every kind of 4, 5, sometimes 6 years, and it's like, that's special, that's amazing. You take it home, you get the CD, bang it in, like you say, you're just looping that bad boy. I completely understand where you're coming from in that regard.
Yeah,
completely. Well, let's get down to talk about the albums. It's a fantastic album. We've been running and working together through this for a long time now. We've been doing pre-production for a while, so this is great that we can finally bring this out to the community. So let's talk about it in that regard. And we wanted to start by talking about the album as a whole and what the encompassing kind of ideas surrounding it. You were wonderful in the sense you gave us a ton of notes. We have a veritable novel in our shared Google Drive with all the notes and all the ideas that come behind it. And there was one thing that caught our eye. Let me bring it up here. So you wrote from your own brain, so to speak. When we find that the world we have constructed for ourselves is just a fantasy, the design which is flawed, the most dignified response is not to grab the ejection ring and watch the dream die while we float above it, but to hit the ground at full speed, shattering into a billion pieces, particles diffusing into the ether with the same velocity and becoming our creations in the ensuing chaos. The hope being that there is some beauty to behold in the symmetry of the impact, which, bloody hell, that's amazing. First and foremost, that kind of sets the stage for what you're trying to do. How is Woolgathering representing this in this regard for you?
Well, you know, Woolgathering came together at a time when my second album for Where Foxma didn't do well, and also Where Foxma was, you know, disintegrating. So like when I wrote that, I probably wasn't in a very good place. So you know, you approached me about doing an album, and I gathered the tracks that I had done. To me at the time didn't feel like a cohesive statement, but then I put them in an order and listened to them over and over again and like ruminated about where I was with this. Music is my hobby. So like getting involved with a record label like Where Foxma was like, you know, they approached me. It was like an accident. So I ended up putting a lot of pressure on myself and, you know, got to the point where like maybe I didn't enjoy the process as much. So you know, at the end of it, there was supposed to be a show in New York that I prepared for a year to do. It just felt like a time of like things coming to an end and a failure. So it's like, how do I view this failure? So that's what that little paragraph is about. It's like, you know, dealing with things not going the way you want them to, and trying to, you know, justify it in my brain and like say, well, you know, that's what happened. I'm okay with it.
I got you. And carry on, Bendu.
Yeah. I think I'm done.
Oh, okay. I was just gonna say, I'm curious if in part of that gathering of the stuff, especially we'll talk artwork in a second too, but or if you want to bring that in, but was building this album, putting it together in this place, and then putting the artwork together, finding this narrative, finding this story, right? Was this a bit of catharsis and working on this theme in that way?
100%. Yes.
Yeah.
Because you know, I was gathering together things that didn't feel cohesive to me, and through the artwork and the process of like, you know, finding the order of the tracks, et cetera, finding, you know, the through line and creating this cohesive thing that wasn't, you know, at first meant to be cohesive. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I get it. And on that note, maybe could you share a little bit about how the artwork then came to be and the inspiration behind it?
Right. So the artwork is part of that process. Normally, like I had made a rule for myself when I was going to release my first record that you know, I wasn't going to do the artwork anymore. I was going to collaborate with someone who could listen to the artwork or the music and have an idea that maybe I didn't have. So that would be stronger. But then this, because of the way it came together, I was like, well, I'm going to do this. So through making this artwork, I took the disparate elements and made it cohesive in my mind. So and the artwork is inspired by an artist named Paul Laffoley. He has these like sort of diagram paintings of that are fascinating to me, and I don't really understand them, but I've tried to emulate him a little bit and find my own way to make a narrative out of this collection of tracks, all that I think, you know, I loved and I wanted to present, but maybe didn't belong together until I put all the ideas for the tracks together. Am I rambling?
No, it makes sense.
So if I get this right, so like in because you have gathered all these together in that regard, the narrative and the story that they're telling, firstly, is one that is somewhat disconnected, but also it's come after the fact, right? Is that same Sagittarius? Is it different therefore with Sagittarius and Portaling, for example, where were they more conducive in that regard?
Yeah, I think both of those albums actually sort of came together slowly and, you know, more cohesively. These tracks were things that like I loved but didn't quite belong anywhere yet. And I have been working on another album that isn't out yet or done, but you know, these are all things I loved anyway and had around. And then when I was approached to put out an album with you all right after the demise of Where Foxma, you know, I just gathered what I could and was like, does this make sense? You know, so and it does make sense.
It does.
So
yeah.
I don't know. Did I answer your question correctly?
Yeah, no, totally. That's kind of where I'm coming from. So like that makes me feel in that regard. I just is it that having done this process now, having gone the other way, and having created the narrative in reverse, do you have a preference? Would you do it again, or is it just serendipity and it's just happened that way, and whatever happens, happens?
You know, it's something I would be interested in doing again because I think doing it. I think doing it the front way, where like I have a narrative, I'm going to write to that narrative, is also pretty difficult. I think doing it after the fact, you know, you kind of discover maybe there's like a subliminal thing going on in your life that didn't occur to you until you're like examining a collection of things in a certain way, right?
Yeah, totally.
So I think they're both valid ways of working, and you know, I like this album a lot. So
fair play. I mean,
yeah,
it's a great album for that regard. So
well,
I'm glad that I'm glad that you enjoy it in that sense. So coming down to Hot Air Balloon, which is one that we have kind of pushed as the lead single, and you have described it as, and this is from your notes, as the most Bendu track ever, which is a great way of putting it, right? Great way of putting it. But for anyone who may be stumbling across this for the first time or may not know the back catalog of Bendu, what is the sound of Bendu? What makes this the most Bendu track ever?
Well, I think, you know, the sound of Bendu is a little bit, it's a mixture of things, but it ends up trying to emulate Boards of Canada and failing in a very particular way. No one is going to listen to any of my stuff and be like, wait, could that be Boards of Canada? Because it's not. But then what the failure in trying to emulate someone you admire, you end up with your own thing. And I feel like the track Hard Air Balloon is you know, sounds like me to me, right? And I'm kind of proud of that. You know, it doesn't sound like a fake Boards of Canada, you know, album, right? Or a track.
There's a notion of finding it's a big moment where you can sit back and look at one of your tracks and go, yeah, I'm proud of that in that regard.
Right.
And to not feel as though you are trying to emulate something else and not quite going up to the mark, but to have something that sticks to what it is and speaks for you as an authentic creator, that's awesome in that regard. So if the answer to that is what is the sound of Bendu, is the authenticity of your own creative expression, that's a wonderful way of putting it in that regard.
Thank you. That's you're right. Yeah, I agree with that.
So we've talked the more ethereal aspects of what constitutes a Bendu track, but let's talk hardware and software. Let's get into the real like production aspect of what makes a Bendu track. So I know you have hardware. You've got a modular rig, right?
Yep.
But you also use a lot in Ableton, a lot of VSTs and production in there and stuff. So what is your workflow, and how does that come to a space where would you even say there's harmony between hardware and software? Is it the clash of it that you find interesting? Is it the merging of it? You know, whatever it is, I'm curious to hear, like, how do you approach the workflow? Do you start with hardware? Do you have it all linked together? And then what is it about this combination that really intrigues you and breeds creativity?
Right. I find working with hardware to be more satisfying. It gets like I earn my living with working at a computer. So when I first got into modular and was using it, it was great, you know, just to be away from the computer and to think about music in like a much more abstract way. However, there got to be a point where it was like, this is so abstract, like I'm the only person who's going to like listening to this stuff. So prior to Sagittarius, I tried to like redo workflow and like really think about how to integrate my writing process with Ableton Live and the modular. And the process I've come to is that I do like little demos very quickly in Ableton, and then I use hardware interface to send out CV to the modular and record, you know, other parts or replace parts in my demo with the modular. And there's also like, there's no presets on the modular. You have to just make everything from scratch. So, you know, I have habits, but there's no presets. So did that answer your question?
Yeah, I do have a follow-up though. Do you find with the modular, are you dialing in a sound? Well, let me put it this way. When you've got a track in Ableton, right? You've got this demo and you go, okay, awesome, this sounds cool. Do you then go, oh, I really want some kind of like bass sound from the modular and program or patch up a bass, or do you just kind of go to the modular, send some MIDI to it or whatever CV, and just kind of patch stuff and see what comes out?
I actually do like, you know, I'm gonna do a bass line patch now,
Okay.
and I'm gonna do, you know, because like if that melody or that bass line is in the demo and I like it, then I use it that way. However, like there's, you know, a melody that repeats, you can, you know, tweak the patch and just re-record the same, you know, music, but with a, you know, just keep adding to the patch, and then I find, you know, if I have the same melody but I have like 40 or 50 different versions of it, then I can go back and pick the nuances and use them in the final track, right?
One last question on that though, because there's no patches, as you said, there's no presets, right?
Nope.
Do you ever go through all those changes and go, oh man, I really want that original sound, or like 10 iterations ago to change like the patch, or to change something in the MIDI, but you just can't? Do you ever have that issue, or do you just kind of embrace that it's kind of a moment in time, or whatever you've got there, you'll just kind of make it work or rework it?
I can't think of an example of when I was like, oh, that does, you know, I wish I could, you know, rewrite the music that went into, you know, here's the thing. At that point, it's audio and you can just chop it up.
Yep.
Right. So, yeah, that's the beauty of digital audio. You can slice that stuff up and rearrange it, and
just keep doing it. Keep doing it. The sky's the limit in that regard. So it's interesting. It's kind of like it's a really interesting way of doing it. You work in the box to make the scratches and then come out into the audio. And then so when it comes to the mixing, this is something I saw in the notes about an hour before we actually hopped on this call. Neutron 4 is a ritual for you from iZotope, which is a mixing aid in that regard. Awesome, amazing, great. Tell us about this process of using Neutron 4 and why you use it and what you find it helps you with in that regard, because it's often seen in the sales and it's often talked about, but not often do we get people sitting down and being able to talk about the nuts and bolts of it. So tell us about your experience with Neutron 4.
Well, I feel like as a hobbyist, I'm coming at mixing things, you know, as a, you know, I'm not trained in this. So, and my workspace isn't, you know, acoustically treated or whatever. So like I try and just I actually use the Neutron stuff as kind of a starting thing where like I will listen to the bass line that I've recorded, for instance, and then go through the baseline presets until I find something that's close, and then I, you know, tweak it or, you know, change it. It really helps me work quickly, and I think makes my mixes better, even though I'm not, you know, the best mixer ever, you know. So like I think it really suits somebody who is, you know, wants to work quickly and maybe doesn't have, you know, the background of working from scratch. It's like a leg up, you know.
No, it's like a buddy. It's like a buddy, like giving you a point. It's like saying this is a good starting point. This is what you can go and then go from here, essentially.
Yeah,
which
precisely.
Which a lot of us need and can find use out of, because you know you can run yourself in circles, chasing this and boosting that and gain staging that and whatever. You can be spinning plates and be spinning plates for infinity. And I suppose as well, externalizing that starting point or that springboard point allows you a certain amount just to still enjoy it. I don't know about you. The mixing stage it's fun. I do enjoy mixing. It's also when it's it's creative, but it takes more time to get there in that regard. And it is a different art when, I don't know about you, sometimes it is just about building loops and building scratches and, you know, that creative extension in that in regard. So to have someone who can take away that anxiety or take away that kind of first step, so to speak, that must be really liberating. It allows you to keep going and keep it joyful and keep it playful.
Yeah, I think the mixing stage is where I can really get in the weeds and like get like
breaking up a little bit
here. Sorry about that, but I feel like getting into mixing it, I can get in the weeds and really second guess myself. Whereas like, you know, the good presets and the workflow of those plugins allow me to just sort of like take my hands off the wheel to begin with, and then like refining something is easier than starting from scratch.
And Ben, are you putting that on individual tracks, or do you put that on the master bus and it does it kind of for everything?
No, I put it on individual tracks.
Got it. And do you put it on all of them to get like a start point, or just the ones you feel? Or okay, cool.
Yeah.
Ben, so that's everything we've got. But is there anything you think we missed, or that you'd really like to mention about Woolgathering, the production process, anything of that sort regarding, or just, you know, music production in general? Anything you want to cover?
No, I just want to say that, you know, I find the community that you guys have created to be very inspirational, and, you know, it's good for me. So thank you for creating this little sandbox on the internet where we can all hang out. Is it a sandbox?
We'll call it a sandbox.
This space where we can all get together and talk about our creativity in this way. I really appreciate it. And I've been part of other communities on the internet before, and I don't know, maybe it has something to do with the size of this one, but I really enjoy being part of it. So there you go. Thanks.
Well, we appreciate having you, Ben. And I mean, you've taken part in sample challenges that we've been doing and stuff, and it's always inspiring to hear what you're creating. And we love having you. So it means a lot to have you with us and to be on board to release Woolgathering and all of that. And yeah, it's awesome. That's our goal here, is to have community, and it only exists because all of us partake in it and do these things and stuff. So it means a lot to have you with us.
Thanks.
No, it's great. Thank you for entrusting us with Woolgathering, because it's a beautiful album. Hopefully of course. Hopefully by the time this airs, many people have gone out and listened to it. But more people, as a result of this interview, will hopefully go and see it when we broadcast it. It is out now. It's on our Bandcamp first and foremost. It's the best place to support Bendu. It's out on streamers as well, on all streaming platforms. So yeah, go have a listen. Tell us what you think. Share it about. This is independent music at its absolute finest. So yeah, so thank you for listening. And Bendu, thanks again for coming on board with us. Really appreciate it.
And this show is brought to you by our patrons who help support us week in and week out. If you want to help support the show, help us do more things like our radio show every month.
If you join, as soon as you join, even at the $2 per month, there is Starstream, which is our monthly hangout for patrons only, where we sit and we really get nerdy and we really talk about what we're doing and what we're up to and our creative journey. As you go further up, there are sample packs which we release. There's currently 2 sample packs there. One from Found Sounds from Eastern and Central Europe, and our time in Interlaken, where Sunwalker and I met in person for the very first time over summer. We built a sample pack around that. Early access, for example, patrons, they got this album earlier than anyone else on our sister channel, and that's because they're patrons. There's lots of benefits to being part of it.
Also, Discord channels exclusive to patrons. That's a big one because we have a lot of talks on there and things like that. But I do also want to mention our Discord is open to all. The link is in the description. And we, as I mentioned, have been doing sample challenges every month. One just ended today, the day that you're watching this. It's in the future right now where I'm talking. Talk about time dilation. But because we pre-record this, I haven't even finished mine. I'm going to do it live. But by the time you're watching this, I'll have done it live and have finished, hopefully, if all went well. But this was a very fun one. I say is because it's future for current Sun Warper, but the Sun Warper you're watching, it would be present or past because it'll be that day. But anyways, this one's really interesting. We throw a vote at the end of every sample challenge, but we have a hangout on the day, actually an hour before Audionaut. So an hour before this one premieres, we'll have met and we'll have hung out and listened to everybody's submissions. And then we vote on what we're going to do for the next one. And so what everybody voted for the one that just happened was we all flipped the same sample. So I made a sample, like a 8-bar loop of 3 or 4 different sounds using the Logic session players. And then I did a lot of sound design to them to really warp them up. But I made it, as Smiling Airs was saying, drunk but funky. So I call it Frunky. It's very Frunky samples. And so the goal here is to just see what you can do with those samples. So you can take a granular thing, you can do whatever and just flip it. And the idea is how different does everybody sound, right? Because it's going to be the same source, but there's so many ways to flip it. And we all have our own experiences and just way of working. And so I'm very curious to see how different it's all going to sound, because I suspect it's going to be pretty different between everybody. But Ben, I think I saw you're going to work on this one, right?
I hope to, yes.
Okay,
I have not yet. So
no, I haven't either.
Hopefully my future self will have
yeah,
kept its promise.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, you were awesome in that last one. That was really cool. And Curtis, I think I'm sure you're gonna take part, right? I'm gonna live stream it this coming weekend, but it's
nice.
Too previous from when it's aired. But you think you're gonna live stream it or just do something?
I don't think I'll live stream this one. I live streamed the last one. I think I'm going to do it with the kids at the school. I think I'm going to do it with them.
Nice.
Where I'm teaching them all about sampling, and I'm teaching them about how to use the push 2 for sampling and stuff like that. So I think we might do it all together as a collective.
That'd be cool.
I think so. So watch this space. We're going to see how it goes on.
Yeah, that'll be exciting. But I will say, because of, let's move to present tense of the future. Man, I don't know what the hell I'm saying, but when you're watching this right now, the present of you watching this right now as it airs on our channel, we're going to throw up a vote, and Curtis isn't going to mess up this time and not include one of them, but we're going to throw a vote in the chat that has whatever sample challenges we discussed in the listening party that just happened. And then we'll also put it in the Discord and put those together, and whatever wins, that will be the next challenge. And then we'll announce that and all that. But yeah, so Curtis of the future, as you watch this, throw the poll up. I wasn't talking to you who's here right now. That's you who's going to be watching it on your phone or on the computer and go, oh, I got to post that.
I got you.
Future Curtis. So yeah, this is like some Terminator stuff or something, man.
I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I am wholeheartedly confused right now. So
I am too, man. I don't even know. But all I'm saying is, it's just weird because this is a pre-recording. We're usually live, right? So it's us in that time when it's airing. We'll have already had the listening. But us now, as we speak and film this, it's still in the future. Crazy.
Humans and light beings of this universe, if you're watching this video, head down to our Discord, get involved in the new challenge next month. I think that's a good way of saying it. Nice to the point, and we will know what we're coming around with.
I like the confusingness.
It's a good allegory for the human condition.
I'm not saying about the future one. I'm saying this current one that's about and has happened. But see, that's what's so crazy. It both hasn't and has. It's Schrodinger's sample challenge.
Schrodinger's beats. Yeah.
Schrodinger's beats, yeah. It has and hasn't happened at the same time. Crazy.
Exactly.
But yes, if you want to take part in the next sample challenge, head to the Discord and check out the vote that Future Curtis has just posted. And then that will post in the Discord as well. Yeah. Is that succinct enough for you? I still had to get the Future Curtis in there because I don't know. It just reminds me of like crazy sci-fi stuff.
You know, the
Ben
real
looks
thing
properly confused right now. Sorry, Ben.
I just, you know, Curtis is going to be future Curtis from now on to me.
There you go.
I just
Future
think that's
Curtis.
a great nickname.
I feel like he should have like a cybernetic arm or like a like laser eye or something, you know, or like some metal that's just like, I don't know. You need something futuristic, Curtis.
Just continue. I mean, yeah, that could work. I'll see what I can do. I'll lop off an arm in a week. You know, the thing is, I'm going to completely forget that this conversation happened because we won't air it for another 2 and a bit weeks. And then sitting in the chat, I know that future Curtis is going to be even more confused than future Curtis is currently right now.
As long as future Curtis of the future in the thing posts that poll, then future Curtis is safe. The timeline is safe.
That's all that matters.
Yeah,
that's all that matters. It's fine.
So but we'll fail, and who knows, man? Could open a whole new universe or multiverse or something. I don't even know.
Maybe I'll have to see. But yes, thank you ever so much, Bennett. Ben, for coming down. Bennett's a kid at my school. I don't know why I called you Bennett. Thank you so much, Bendu, for coming down and taking us through the Woolgathering and telling us all about this little gem of sonics that you've got here. So thank you for being so open and being so vulnerable with us and how your process have worked and how this has come to be.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
And we will be back next week at 11 a.m. Pacific. I think it's what, 7 p.m. UTC. I haven't done the UTC thing lately. 7 p.m. UTC, this time live. But yeah, we appreciate you hanging out in this premiere. Let us know if you like this kind of format. We're always curious to hear. But yeah, we'll be back live. And then, of course, the sample challenges every month. And then our Beyond Genre Radio, our Audionautic Radio, is every month. If you've got something you want to submit, email us at audionauticsounds@gmail.com or send it to us in the Discord. And yeah, we'll see you over in the Discord. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.